how did foreign investments lead to the Civil War? Although we tend to view the outbreak of the Civil War in terms of the larger fight over morality, it was actually greatly caused by international trade. Firstly, trade disputes in textiles led to the burgeoning abolitionist movement. Secondly, British investment led to the South relying on cotton. And thirdly, the industrialization of cotton trade led to inhumane slave conditions and galvanized the abolitionist movement. Trade disputes in textiles led to a growing abolitionist movement. William Wilberforce was both anti-slavery and a wool representative. Wool played a major and greatly important role in British history. Wool sacks were seats used in the House of Lords and were filled with wool. There were also sheep everywhere in Britain, and still are. But cotton feels better. The problem is that cotton pickers were slaves. There's often a cycle when you ban something. The Baptists and the bootleggers. Baptists are principally against this thing that is supposedly getting banned, whereas bootleggers want money, and they will get so by illegally having whatever it is that is banned. This such as what happened with the Abramoff scandal. An owner of many casinos funded anti-gambling organizations. These organizations believed gambling should be illegal, and the owner wanted more money. This same thing happened with the banning of wool, slaves. There were many abolitionists in the wool industry. Many were leaders in particular. John Brown was an abolitionist known for his violence, but he was also a sheep farmer before this. Most wool merchants were for abolition. William Wilberforce, quote, operated as the official parliamentary spokesman for the wool industry, unquote, according to B.K. Bengara. Movements against slavery were done by merchants because the cotton industry was generally pro-slavery. It was a competition for the control of the textile market. British investment also drove the South to rely on cotton. British cotton could no longer be produced as much because they couldn't make nearly as much of it without slaves, so they bought cotton from America. The bans on, yes. Quote, the South was supplying Britain with 45% of its needs. By 1830, that percentage would rise to 70%, unquote, according to in Trumbore. Wilberforce was against slavery, which led to less British cotton being produced, which led to more cotton being produced by the American South, which led to more slaves. The flood of British investment in the South led to an explosion of cotton production. After the abolition of slaves, the South had produced about 150,000 bales of cotton. By 1850, this number grew up to 3.8 million. The intent was to abolish slavery, but because of the want of cheap cotton, they outsourced both the cotton and the slavery. The South had an advantage because they had no need to produce any other things. And thirdly, industrialized cotton productions led to inhumane slave conditions. Slaves grew in demand, so they cost more and got less. As plantations grew, cotton gained importance. People sold slaves to get bigger farms. Because of these bigger farms, slaves were less people and more groups. Slaves didn't like this, and uprisings happened to protest these. To prevent these, owners became violent. They suppressed the slaves to break their will to fight. This became harder and harder, and public punishments became worse and worse. It was a cycle. At the beginning, this wouldn't have happened because slaves were needed more. More slaves were worse in other ways too, according to David Barry Gaspar. Quote, incidents of punishments tended to be harsher on the larger, more impersonally organized plantations, unquote. This fact was also well known. Songs were made about leaving Kentucky for states farther south. One of the most famous was made after having read Uncle Tom's Cabin. Stephen Foster was one of the first to pen down one of many of these songs. The slave in the song is preparing to meet his imminent death from overworking and mistreatment. These all go to show that, along with trade disputes and textile and British investment in the South's cotton, the industrialization of cotton trade leading to inhumane slave conditions were all partially, if not mostly, caused by international trade, which was the real cause of the Civil War instead of morality. Thank you.